What is up, guys? Welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast. In today's episode, what we'll be discussing, some contract extension talks. Got an article published by The Athletic. They touched on Jaden Ivey and Jaylen Duren, so we'll be reading that and giving our overall thoughts and opinions on this article and what it means for Jaden Ivey and Jaylen Duren, if they are going to get extended. And then we'll kind of just look at the Detroit Pistons. We got a couple of games that did get released this morning. So it should be a very fun podcast if you guys are watching live on YouTube right now. But let's get into the contract talks. We're going to start with Jaylen Duren. I'm going to put a screenshot on the screen. This comes from The Athletic. John Hollinger is the guy that wrote this article. And it says Jaylen Duren, Pistons. Duren has his shortcomings as a defender and a decision maker, but he's a top 15 center in the league and is still on the way up. BORD values Duren at $25.3 million for the coming season, and he's still in his early 20s. Detroit has no major caps obstacles in the future and could even front load a deal for Duren to help manage its downstream cap better. Either way, totally similar to the one I proposed for Daniels. Around 5 years, $125 million seems like the right ballpark. For a comparison point, Jarrett Allen signed a 5-year at $20 million a pop with Cleveland at a similar point in his development. And that was under the 2021 salary cap. Next year's cap projection is 32.1% higher. So that is what John Hollinger from The Athletic is kind of reporting with Jaylen Duren and what his price point could be. Again, what you're probably looking at next contract extension projections for Duren, anywhere from $100 million to $125 million, and the AAV of that would be $20 to $25 million per season for Jaylen Duren's services. So what I took out of that from John Hollinger, who is a very well-respected columnist at The Athletic, is what they're projecting for him is a 5-year deal, either $100 million or $125 million. Me personally, I think if you can get Duren in that ballpark, I'm good with it. The last Detroit Piston center that had an extension that high, like the price point money, was actually Andre Drummond. Ironically, if you guys remember, Andre Drummond signed a 5-year, $125 million deal with the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, that deal didn't really, last. They eventually did trade him, got off of that contract. But I think with the way the cap space is going up, I don't really see a problem with Jaylen Duren getting that type of money. The thing is, he's 21 years old. He'll be 22 by the time the season starts. And if you're giving him a 5-year deal, he's going to be 27. Like just entering his prime. So I think if you're the Pistons, personally, I would get an extension done this summer if I were them for Jaylen Duren. Lock him up. Because the cap's is going to keep continuing to go up. And I also believe that he's not a finished product yet. I still think there's a lot for him to improve on. I think offensively, developing a mid-range jump shot is definitely in his arsenal. We just haven't really seen it in games so far. He practices every pregame shoot around. I see it all the time when I go to games, or whether I'm scrolling the timeline, looking at a video from Amari or looking at a video from Hunter. Even our guy Eric Vincent does the same thing, kind of posting players. And Duren is always a player that is working on a post game. He's working on a good 10 to 15-foot jump shot. So that is one area of improvement for Jaylen Duren that I think he will develop over time. Defensively, I think we can have this conversation. Like, first 30 games was not his best performances. After that, it seemed like he got a little bit more locked in. And there were flashes of him, protecting the rim, blocking shots. I think he's going to get better in that area as well. And I think locking up a guy that's 21 years old, you know, is important for the Pistons because I feel like he's a very big piece and a cornerstone. He's one of Cade Cunningham's favorite lob threats, even Jaden Ivey too. So that's kind of like John Hollinger's take on what people around the league are valuing Jaylen Duren. Similar to Jared Allen, 20 to 25 million a year. Now, Jaden Ivey, this one is really weird. We're going to put the screenshot article on the screen with Jaden Ivey. So let's get into this. So Jaden Ivey Pistons. And it says, after a 24-25 season that was mostly lost to injury, I have a hard time seeing how the Pistons and Ivy could come to a resolution on a long-term number. The Pistons are under no long-term cap pressure and can afford to wait a year and gather more information, even if it costs them a bit if Ivy breaks out. There's also a fascinating cap nerd scenario where Detroit gives Ivy a one-year balloon payment next summer to set itself up for either an in-season trade or a 2027 cap space. Meanwhile, Ivy likely has just as much incentive to push up the value of his next contract rather than settle for what would likely be a mid-level exception-ish type of money on an extension. For what it's worth, BORD only sees him as a $10 million value, and surely Ivy would frown at any figure in that range. So there's a lot to kind of dig into with Jaden Ivey, with this evaluation by BORD. And I think what John Hollinger said is correct. I think for Jaden Ivey and the Pistons, I just don't really see them getting a deal done this summer, and that's okay. Like, that's completely okay. Jaden Ivey's still under contract. He's still under his rookie contract. The Pistons do not have to get a deal done right now. And the thing is, like, the Pistons could come in with a lowball offer. I don't think it would be 10 million because that kind of seems a little bit disrespectful, and you don't want to fracture that relationship that you do have with a young player on your roster. And I think what John also said was, like, they might want to gather a little bit more information to see if Jaden Ivey is a long-term fit on the Detroit Pistons. And I think that's the correct thing to do. You get more information, see how many games he can play this season. Hopefully he has a healthy season, knock on wood. Like, I'm really hoping Jaden Ivey can play more than 30 games this year. I thought in the 30 games that we saw, it looked like he was starting to put it all together. But honestly, I don't see an extension actually happening this summer. And that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong, and I'll come up here and tell you guys I was wrong. But I don't really see how it would really make sense for him long term, because at the end of the day, these players want to get paid and they want to get the most money they possibly can. And I think it would be extremely risky of the Detroit Pistons front office to, offer him around the same money is Jaylen Duran. And we've seen this front office. They've been very tactical and strategic the way that they've been giving out contracts. I'm under the assumption that no rush. They want to see what he looks like with Karis LeVert, Duncan Robinson, and these new additions on the team. And that's completely okay. Like, you don't really have to extend either of these guys. You can kind of wait and have these conversations next summer. But it is what it is at this point. I mean, the balloon contract, kind of like the Jalen Green deal, where, you offer him a bigger number. Like, I think Jalen Green he was at like a 40 million with an extension, but it wasn't as long-term as a 5-year deal like we saw with Cade Cunningham. But I don't really see the Pistons doing that. I think they just want to kind of keep evaluating Jaden Ivey and seeing if he is the long-term shooting guard next to Cade Cunningham. And if he is, they'll extend him. They'll give him a 4 to 5 year deal. But if he isn't, they might give him a shorter-term contract and kind of just keep evaluating and seeing what two guard to pair next to Cade. But if I had to guess, I think they're just going to wait and see. and just get more information that way. Trajan kind of seems like that type of GM where he just needs a little bit more information on Jaden Ivey, and that's completely fine. He hasn't drafted Jaden Ivey. He hasn't drafted Jaylen Duran. He needs a little bit more information to kind of see what he wants to offer him and go back to the front office and saying, like, should we extend these guys, for more than a 3-year period? But did want to bring it to your attention. It's kind of like what the Athletic had heard, talking with people around the league. Jaylen Duran's around 20 to 25 million. Jaden Ivey, they're only valuing him at 10 million, which I think is kind of laughable and a little bit disrespectful. But given the injury, I guess there's some context to that, but did want to kind of touch on it for a little bit with you guys. I do see a couple of comments. So, in my opinion, Jaylen Duren peaked. I think there's still something there, young G313. Young OG 313. Apologize for that. He's 21. I think we saw, flashes of him getting better. And I'd like to assume JB and that coaching staff are going to be working with him of developing more of a face-up game to really complement his game and complement, players around him on the Pistons. But hey, I could be wrong. Maybe you're right, but just kind of my opinion. I got a comment from Devon. I said both aren't really worth no more than 25, but both are unproven. I like them both, but still being honest, like I'm kind of with you. Like when you kind of look at both of them, they're young, intriguing prospects. Jaden Ivey obviously has had a really weird, first 3 years in the league. His rookie year, Katie gets injured. Second year of the season, Monty Williams was his coach, and then last year, JB played him a ton, which is great for his development, I thought. But he only played 30 games because of Cole Anthony. So I think it's a situation where they want to kind of evaluate Jaden Ivey a little bit more, and Jaylen Duren. I think they have a pretty good understanding of what his value is and what he could possibly be. What about Duren's ankles? Ever since he's kind of been wearing those ankle bracelets, not bracelets, ankle braces. It's been a long day, guys. I woke up really early. He hasn't had as many ankle injuries. Now, I remember when he first came in the league, he had so many ankle injuries. But since he's been wearing the braces, he still wears those Kevin Durant shoes. He's been okay. I know it's been a long day, man. I think I woke up at 7 a.m. and I've been outside all day, just doing yard work, cutting the lawn, just doing fun stuff. And it was 90 today, so it was so damn hot here in Michigan. But man, got a comment from James. It would be great to see JD and JI both on 4-year deals. Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think that's what the Pistons are kind of hoping for. Personally, I kind of think when we reacted to the Spot Track article from a few weeks ago, there was a quote from an anonymous Detroit Pistons executive, and they said that they felt pretty confident that they could get contract extensions done with both Jaden Ivey and Jaylen Duren. So I think it's just a thing where both parties have to be happy and have to agree. We might just extend Jaylen Duren this summer and then extend Jaden Ivey the following summer. And that's okay. I mean, they're still both under their rookie deals. You don't have to get a deal done right now, but if they pop off, their price goes up. I think that's the only risk. If Jaden Ivey just has a breakout season, that price is going to go up. Same with Jaylen Duren. If they both just have great seasons, they're putting it together on both ends of the floor, that price goes up. I think that's the risk with not giving them extensions, but it's kind of a risk you do have to take. Scott Murray, Kuminga and Giddey are holding out on 30 plus. Reports came out, Cam is holding out for 40 million per year. No way Ivy extends for less than 30 a year in this market. I agree with you. I do, Scott. Like, I think your head's in the right place. Like, the Kuminga saga and the Giddey saga, the Warriors were willing to pay him 20. He said no. Same with the Bulls. Like, they're holding out for 30 million. I think this year is just a bad year for both of them in terms of, like, not a lot of teams outside of Brooklyn actually have cap space. And Brooklyn has the cap space to extend Cam Thomas, and they're still not going to do it. I personally think when you kind of look at Jaden Ivey, he's better off not taking an extension from the Pistons, in my opinion, right now, because I think it would be a lowball offer, given that he only played 30 games, and I don't really think the Detroit Pistons want to give him 30 million right now. I just don't. I think he's in the range between 25 to 28. If it comes to 30 because he has a breakout year, I can live with it. I can. Like, if he turns into a more consistent scorer, his defense gets a little bit better, I'm fine with that. Like, if he breaks out, that means that he got better. So I'm not really opposed to these players getting paid, but I did kind of want to, touch on this for a little bit. We got Mr. Ray kind of giving his comments. Sign Ivy to a 20 to 25, 4 to 5 year deal right now. If he turns out to be that second star next to Cade, he's going to be magnificent. It's going to be a magnificent deal at that point. I agree with you. It's just a thing. It's like, if does Ivy want to take 20 million? Does he want to take 25 million? Does he think he's worth 30? Does he think he's worth 40 like Cam Thomas? I'm not entirely sure. I think at the end of the day, like, we want to re-sign these guys, but we don't really know what the market is for, either of these guys, like what they want. I mean, obviously BORD, they kind of give estimates of what they think these players can go for, but Ivy could request 30. Jaylen Duran could request 25, 26, 27. We really don't know. Man. Mr. Ray has another comment about Duran. Cool, offering him 15 to 18 million, but I don't think him or his representation with like that price point. Yeah, I mean, like, I think they're kind of chilling like between 20 and 25. And I mean, like, if you can get a deal done right now, I guess do it. Because if he, develops a little bit more, takes a jump, gets a jump shot, I think it's pretty good, especially with the way the cap is going up. It's kind of fluctuates between, I know this year went up 10%. Next summer, it's only going up 7%. That's because of all the RSS feeds and the TV deals. We kind of did like a whole conversation about that a couple of months ago, but cap's still going up. So that contract will just kind of look pretty good. In my opinion, anyways. Mr. J, we are going to regret not paying Ivy this summer. If he plays great, we'll have to match near a max deal. Yeah, I mean, that's the risk. That's the risk of these contract extensions, man. Like, if you don't really think that he's going to pop off and you just need a little bit more information and the front office feels that way, cool, I guess. But if he does pop off, you're right. Like, he has a breakout season and there are teams out there like Utah's going to have cap space next year. Like, who's to say Utah doesn't try to, strong arm the Pistons and try to go get Jaden Ivey? Because, like, you kind of look at their guard rotation, like, they don't, to me personally, I don't really think they have a guard of the future that they could build around. Like, Utah could definitely do that. There are going to be several teams with cap space next year, over 10 plus teams with cap space that could, try to lure away Jaden Ivey and Jaylen Duran if the Pistons don't get, extensions done. But that's kind of the thing. But in most cases with RFA or restricted free agency, it's very, very rare, but it is a chance you have to honestly take. We got Ben Foe, only $100 million for a guy on this team. Arcade in a SAR, everyone else is interchangeable. Yeah, I mean, like, people are, privy to their opinions. Like, I honestly think that both of those guys will probably get 100 million just because that's how NBA money works right now. But if you don't feel that Jaden Ivey or Jaylen Duren are worth 100 million, Ben, it's perfectly fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I do agree. I think a Stars extension will be kind of in the Jalen Suggs range. Like I could see him getting 150 million easily, just for the defense. And if his jump shot develops whatsoever, or if he, his dribble gets better in any way, shape, or form, he's probably getting around that Jalen Suggs extension or possibly more. But I do want to kind of get into the schedule. I know a lot of you guys have very strong opinions on this extension talk, and I understand it. Like it's kind of like we want to lock these guys up, want to see how far this core can possibly go, but Pistons have time. So we did get a little bit of a schedule teaser today. I'm going to put it on the screen for you guys to see if you guys haven't seen already. So the Detroit Pistons will be having not one, but two nationally televised games through NBC Peacock. So the first one is Monday, October 27th against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this will be the first Peacock exclusive game. So the Detroit Pistons will have the very first game on NBC. That's huge. That's awesome. You're going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers, JB Bickerstaff's old team. I hope we can beat the Cavs really early on in the season. And then you have the Nuggets and the Timberwolves after that game is done. Now you go over to Martin Luther King Day. The Detroit Pistons have the last game of that day against the Boston Celtics. So two exclusive games on NBC Peacock. I think this is kind of cool that the NBA has done kind of a 180 in terms of like it's always been ESPN, it's always been inside the NBA, but a lot of these, networks like NBC, Amazon Prime, they're kind of like the NBA. Like we want to get into this. We want to definitely be a player to broadcast these games, and now we have NBC, inside the NBA, ESPN. I'm probably forgetting one of them off the top of my head, but you have multiple big media companies that will be broadcasting NBA games this year. Here's my only issue, and maybe I just sound like an old man. I have to buy another subscription, and I'm not happy about it. I already pay FanDuel, Amazon Prime. That's what I forgot. Thank you, young OG. But I have to pay for another subscription. I have Amazon Prime. I'm trying to think what else I have. I have FanDuel Sports Network, but I don't even know how many Pistons games are actually going to be on there. I don't even know if FanDuel is going to be the streaming partner of the Pistons this year because Sinclair is still bankrupt. It's just still a really bad situation with Bally / FanDuel. I don't even know how many games we're going to be getting from them. Or like, is George and Greg going to do the play-by-play? Is FanDuel still going to be around? Are they still going to broadcast the Pistons? Like, I haven't gotten any news from them yet. Going to have to wait and see. But with a lot of players out there that are going to be broadcasting games, going to have to buy more subscriptions. Obviously, I know I don't have to buy the subscriptions. You can go on pirated sites. I mean, I'm not going to name them right now because I'm not a snitch and I don't want them to get taken down, but there are sites that you can watch these basketball games for free. My only issue is it's like I got to buy another subscription if I actually want to watch the game with no interruptions and it looks good. Like, that's my only thing. Cool to see that the Detroit Pistons are getting more nationally televised games. I think they could get over 10 plus this year. I really do. I think not a lot of people had them last season being a 40-win team. They didn't have them as a top 6 seed. And I think a lot of these networks are going to want a piece of that. They're going to want a piece of JB Bickerstaff and the Detroit Pistons and their expectations this year, you guys. Like, we didn't have any expectations this year. Like, expectations are making the playoffs and try to win our first playoff series. Like, I think those are the expectations this season for the Detroit Pistons. But, I mean, pretty cool that they'll be playing in the very first NBC game with NBC Peacock. And then they get to play on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I know the NBA schedule does come out this Thursday, you guys, so we'll get to know how many nationally televised games that the Pistons do have. Maybe we'll get an update with FanDuel if they're going to be broadcasting this year or not. I just don't know. I just don't know. I see some of you guys comment the free sites to watch these games, and I'll let you guys comment those. I'm not going to repeat them. I'm not going to snitch, but because some of us that don't live in Michigan, a lot of those, like FanDuel, for example, if you don't live, within the area of Detroit or live in Michigan, you can't really watch your teams. So you have to kind of go into these illegal streaming sites. But man, it's a whole thing. Like I remember, and I'm going to show my age again. I remember like we could watch these games on UPN, man. Like they were free, man. As long as you had at least basic cable, you could watch WWE, or I think it was WWF at that time. I don't even think it was WWE yet. You could watch some Piston games. Like it was cool, man. I kind of want to go back to those days. I know some NBA owners like Matt Ishbia and the Suns, they kind of have that where you can just get an antenna and watch Phoenix Suns games for free. Maybe Tom Gores can kind of pull off a boss move like that. I feel like he's got the money. He could do it. I know Chris Ilitch kind of decided that he still wanted FanDuel to broadcast his games, but he wanted to hire his own sideline reporters. I honestly think like Chris Ilitch and Tom Gores could come together and just give us a Detroit sports broadcasting package, whether it's free or whether it's a paid service. Like $10-15 a month, I think is fair. UPN, you're going way back. Yeah, man, I'm 33. I'm old, bro. I'm old as shit. I feel like Unk status over here. UFC is shutting that down. UFC is going to be on Paramount now, Mr. Logic. Like, here's the thing, and I know I'm rambling on this podcast tonight. So Paramount paid over, I think, $1 billion for South Park, right? And then they just paid $7.7 billion for UFC. Paramount could have bought all the streaming rights this year, you guys. Like, I don't know where the hell they're getting this money from. I just don't. But Paramount just spent over $8 billion on South Park and UFC, dog. Like, what are we doing? Like, these networks have so much money. Like, I saw the UFC stuff, and I'm like, $7.7 billion with Paramount? Like, that's crazy, man. That is crazy. Funds of Anarchy, all you needed was a TV antenna, the good old days. Man, I'm telling you, man, I feel so old. Like, I was talking to a younger Piston fan the other day, and I said UPN. He's like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, it's like basic cable." And he's just like, "You can watch the Pistons for free." I was like, "Yeah, you didn't have to pay anything, man." He's like, "Wow, that's crazy." Like, it's honestly like I get it. The times that we're in, these companies want to make money. I get it. It's not that I don't have the money. It's just if your app is unreliable, like FanDuel sometimes, like that shit is buggy as hell. Like one day it works, next day I gotta log in every damn day. Like every damn day, and it doesn't work. It's so weird. Like some of the pirated sites, like they're better. Like you don't have to log in, and they have the same like FanDuel's stream for free. It's like, bro, like whoever runs these sites, I'm laughing. I'm surprised the NBA hasn't reached out to them because like some of their streams are crystal clear, they're perfect. Then you got like the little chats on the side of like fans talking during the game. It's just a wild experience. But I do want to wrap up this podcast. You guys have been on for around 30 minutes. I don't know if you guys have any questions, and if you don't, we'll probably take tomorrow off because I don't really think there's too much to talk about. If there is, if news drops tomorrow, I will have a podcast. But with there being no news and it's August 12th as I'm recording this episode, it's not really a whole lot for me to talk about. We probably will have a podcast towards the end of the week. I'm still trying to confirm with the guest on Friday what time is good for him. But once I do get those details, we should have a longer form podcast on Friday. But I appreciate all 40 of you guys watching me right now at 9 o'clock at night. You guys are OGs. If you can on the way out, definitely hit that like button. It does help the channel, push our content out to more Detroit Pistons fans like yourself. And if you're not subscribed, hey, give me a subscribe. We're trying to get to 30,000. You guys, we're getting closer and closer every day. If you do like the content, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on the audio side, it does help out us a lot, reach more Detroit Pistons fans. But until next time, peace. Go Pistons.